Perfect. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Teslim Ikharo. I'm Executive Director of a community land trust in the East Bay called Supportive Housing Community Land Alliance. We are a nonprofit community land trust that serves residents with serious mental illness in Alameda County. I come to this work with a varied background. I also went to law school, but never practiced. Ended up in the affordable housing world, really looking to make a difference with one of the most important social issues that I think are available to us, just given the intersection with housing and so many other parts of our lives. So I'll give you a short overview of SHCLA and some of the work that we're doing and how we connected with Professor Belle and the Blockchain Mini Bond Project. So I don't see it reflecting up here on the screen, but just in terms of some of the partners, we are an initiative that is really interdepartmental in Alameda County. Alameda County Behavioral Health, this was kind of a brainchild of the Behavioral Health Department to use housing as a health intervention. Really innovative at the time, but I think that now there's a lot of understanding that there are links between housing and healthcare. And if we were to address social determinants of health, we really need to look at aspects of community and think of even community as an intervention. And so these are some of our supporters. And so here's the table of contents, and I'll run through an overview about the organization. But first, starting with this idea of wicked problems. Does anyone know what a wicked problem is? Okay, you do.
So a wicked problem is something that can't be easily resolved because of the multiple tentacles that wrap around other issues. You solve one issue and the dominoes fall other places.
Exactly, exactly. And it becomes very difficult to measure success, determine when success has actually been achieved. And so something that, we're trying to do as an organization is to really put some key measures to some of these issues. And so we'll talk about some of the social impact measures that we've taken that takes a collective impact approach with other providers to ensure that we're actually achieving meaningful results. SHCLA was formed in 2021, just a few years ago, in partnership with Alameda County Behavioral Health. There were several facets of our project that make it unique. We had a number of families, parents of adult children with serious mental illness, very concerned about their adult children living independently. And there were a lack of adequate housing opportunities for individuals with serious mental illness. And so we had this idea of really putting quality at the forefront, defining quality. I think that in our space, cost effectiveness is really important. People want to make sure that every single dollar is used effectively. But I think we've been trying to reorient to think about bringing some of those costs up front so that we save money in the long term, right? And so we know that quality spaces, we see the plants in the room, how important it is to have natural elements in projects. And so we'll get into that as well. And so the mission of the organization is to create housing in Alameda County for individuals with serious mental illness. We do this with a multi-pronged approach. We also work in partnership with other service providers who provide services. We take care of the development piece, the affordable housing development piece as real estate developers. We partner with service partners that provide services to residents. And so in Alameda County, we see generally about 10,000 unhoused in the county. We have about 32% of that population live with a serious mental illness. And so, we have really seen disproportionate of that population also being African-American. And so our work is really geared to serving that 32% of the unhoused population with serious mental illness. Part of our work, we're really data focused. And so taking raw data, turning it into insights about some of these issues are a key part of our work as well. And so we mapped the licensed boarding care closure. So these are facilities that provide 24-hour care and support to individuals with serious mental illness. Services like medication management, 3 meals a day, higher level of service than even traditional permanent supportive housing. But these facilities were closing all throughout Alameda County, and we wanted to be able to determine, was there geographic concentration? Was there some similarities between these different facilities? We really determined that there are lots of factors that led to the closure of these facilities. Most of those reasons are financial. And also small business owners, lots of immigrant families operating small facilities, 3 to 4 bedroom homes, kind of doing it out of the goodness, I wouldn't say purely the goodness of their heart, but really wanting to provide a community benefit and a service. And as inflation and cost of food and employment cost rose, these facilities started closing. And so this is an overview of the homeless inventory in Alameda County. And I think we can share these slides with everyone after as well. The challenge, I know I discussed this a little bit, but there really is a lack of quality facilities in Alameda County. The facility closures are really concentrated in Oakland and in the southern part of the county in Hayward. And so our project, which we'll get into shortly, really is intended to address the need, which is in Alameda County about 700 beds needed to serve this population. And so our innovation really seeks to address what we consider an invisible pipeline to homelessness. So the closure of these facilities, the county had a hunch that the closure of these facilities was creating a pipeline to homelessness, but no one really knows what a licensed boarding care is. No one really knows where they are in their communities. They're really integrated in the fabric of neighborhoods, but really without this focus and this attention to licensed boarding care facilities, it's really difficult to get ahead of the problem. And so our approach is multi-pronged. We define quality in terms of access to certain neighborhoods. High opportunity neighborhoods is one of the ways that, what we look at. So this is neighborhoods that have access to transit, parks, public spaces. We also cluster our activity in neighborhoods so that it's easier for us to manage property and to ensure that there's a network of homes in a neighborhood. We have really focused on integrated settings. So individuals living in concentrated neighborhoods of poverty or concentrated even disability is not ideal. And so having residents integrated with those in a neighborhood without disability, residents in the neighborhood participating in resident councils, so there's shared governance with residents as a part of the housing intervention as well. And some of the other components, ensuring that residents have access to others in the community that really support them. And so our ideal is that as our residents walk down the street, neighbors in the community are waving to them. It's kind of like the Jane Jacobs eyes on the street, individuals participating in the well-being of our residents in addition to the staff at the site. Again, just focusing on quality, just making sure that alternative modalities of healing are available to residents. So art therapy is one of the key components of our project. Pet therapy is also included as a service to residents. And the previously mentioned biophilic design. So anytime I walk into a room, I look for plants and trees, windows, water elements. These really make us feel better. They make us feel calm and supported and safe. And so we do have two models, a licensed boarding care model and then a family partnership model. The family partnership model, I'll save it for another date, but we really work with parents of adult children who have who have adult children, and the idea of co-investing with other families to ensure that they're able to secure long-term permanent housing for their children as they age. But the licensed board and care project is what we're working with Professor Belle on. And in this model, this is actually the site. You can see that it's a beautiful property. It's the first all-electric property in Oakland with solar on the rooftop, about a block away from BART in West Oakland. There's a community garden. We walked the neighborhood and we saw goats, goats in the neighborhood. There's a small farm and in this very urban neighborhood in West Oakland. The project serves transition age youth. So these are individuals who are 18 to 21 years of age, who are aging out of the foster care system. A huge need for this population, not a lot of supports. And so we've been working very closely with Alameda County to secure operating subsidy, which allows us to provide services to residents on site. This is just some pictures of the property. You can see many of these elements in terms of natural light, natural elements. Former residents were, socially and economically mobile residents living in a co-living facility. And so we're converting a co-living facility into a licensed facility for residents with serious mental illness. And this is a part of our ethos as an organization of democratizing beauty and opportunity for the residents we serve. So some detail about the flow of how things work. Oh yeah, no problem. No problem at all. So yes, it's a 24-bed facility in West Oakland. Again, it's the first all-electric property in Oakland with solar and lots of natural landscaping with biophilic design elements indoors and outdoors. So the operating model, just to show you that, it is highly intensive in terms of staffing, about 20 staff members on site to serve 24 youth. So that's, there's facilities managers, there's chefs, there's case managers. There are a number of providers on site. We've focused on training and behavioral health services as well. So there is a licensed therapist on site. And residents receive medication management, 3 meals a day, all in a beautiful property. The impact of our work, just wanted to, okay. Just wanted to show that there really is a cost effectiveness in these efforts if you really focus on the front end on quality. The alternative, there are lots of alternatives. But the health system pays an exorbitant cost for individuals to stay based on an administrative day rate of about $225. In our case, residents are saving counties, close to $1,000 a day just based on, current rates for those administrative rates. And so eventually, I think we want to start working on the idea of a pay-for-success agreement where we calculate what those cost savings are from multiple connections to the system. So this can be the system of incarceration, medical savings, and use private capital to acquire the property. Cost savings would be used to pay back private investors. Permanent supportive housing, it's a proven model. We know it works. There are several studies, national studies, randomized control trials to demonstrate the effectiveness of permanent supportive housing, but residents generally stay housed about 97% of the time. And again, measuring recovery. So how do we measure recovery for the residents we serve? There are several tools out there. We're working with the best-in-class evaluator, a professor at UC Berkeley, Charisma AC, to look at some of the cost savings related to that are tied to recovery. And so the MORES, or measures of recovery scale, is one of those tools that we use. And this is just a broad overview of some of the additional social impact measures. And so with that, I will open it up for any questions.
Good. So I have questions about your project that you have today, right? So are you taking models where you can take an existing piece of property and remodel it and modernize it so that it could fit this? And is the funding for that exactly the same as if you built something brand new?
Yeah, so in the community land trust world, preservation projects are more typical. We typically are engaged in less new construction. And part of that is environmental, right? We all know that adaptive reuse or existing buildings are much more environmentally sustainable than new construction. But also the financing is so much more challenging with new construction. And it's almost a question of economies of scale. If you're taking on smaller projects, you don't, the fixed costs are exorbitant, and it doesn't really make sense to do a $5 million project for like a low-income housing tax credit finance project. And so we're finding a good fit with co-living facilities. That model was crushed during COVID. It wasn't really ideal to live in congregate settings with individuals, to live in close quarters. And so it is an opportunity for us and the work that we do.
So we got some other questions out here. I got, let's see. Oh, Michelle, working back there.
Hello. Excellent presentations, the both of you. I really appreciate all of the data that was presented today, so thank you for that. My question is regarding it's a two-pronged question. One is around what is the cost, both construction and operationally, like what would that look like for a building or a project like the one that you have in Oakland? And what is the scalability of that? What are some barriers? What are your biggest challenges to scaling that model? It seems like you've got like a holistic approach to how you're dealing with folks who have these significant needs. And then secondly, how does that tie back to the first presenter, Professor Charles, and the model that you had presented earlier around? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. In this acquisition is about $4 million, and it doesn't require significant rehab. That is ideal for us, and it's kind of the trifecta of vacant properties. Those vacant properties not requiring substantial rehab and being located in neighborhoods that are ideal for the residents that we serve. Basically the acquisition doesn't require significant rehab, and that is a core component for us. In conversations with other community land trusts, there's this question about scale, and we know that in the business world, scale is so important. And as we talk to other community land trusts, they talk about depth. And so, we know that one of the barriers to scale is financing. And so part of the appeal of working with Professor Belle was, can we create something that will create a mechanism so that when we do identify property, we can close quickly. So I think that would be the main barrier, but we also are very interested in depth, as I won't say as opposed to scale, but depth and scale.
Teslim, thank you for your time. This is exciting that we're even talking about this. I was wondering if hotels and motels are a part of your model. Justine.
Yeah, so I know that in COVID, the hotel and motel, asset type became appealing because there were lots of individuals housed temporarily in these facilities, and then the state provided resources to acquire the facilities. But I think sometimes some of the layouts are not ideal. We try to think about ways that residents can live in community in ways that are supportive. And also significant rehab to convert that layout with kitchens and bathrooms in the appropriate way. So for us, and also location, hotels and motels are sometimes in very remote locations. And so for us, it's very important for residents to be integrated in communities. We know that there's a lot of stigma related to the population that we serve, but we believe that residents' recovery is closely tied to being in community with residents in an integrated settings.
So I do have a question also on the human resource side of things, of just how has that been either a limitation or that you enable that so that you've got the adequate supervision and oversight of the facilities? Because we know we've had challenges with that at other rehab facilities and then getting defunded, some of those things. So I'm just wondering, kind of curious on the human resource side of the equation.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the reality is that I come from the world of affordable housing development, and even in that world, it's I would say much different than the supportive housing world. In that you have a higher needs population, and so I think the reality of serving that population is that there will be behavioral challenges. There will be staff that are under extreme stress, often duress. How we've tried to address that is through training and incentives. So on the training and ensuring that resident or staff have the support needed to de-escalate situations, to respond when emergency does occur. When you don't have sufficient training, I think that leads to turnover. Staff leave because they don't feel supported. And so a big part of our effort has been on that training piece. And then also community education. Again, there are human resources concerns for us related to the staff, but we're also working with community members to engage with residents as part of that extra layer of support to staff and also to residents, to participate in resident councils, to engage more directly. I think whenever I tell someone that I'm the executive director of a housing organization, there are millions of questions about the work and how can they help. And I think we want to be able to create opportunities for individuals to directly participate as community members.
This question, I'll give you a break. This question's for the professor. So I'm trying to put my brain around your whole model and where it fits in and what would be the sweet spot for, entity to consider it. So like if there was a church that has property and big dreams of developing it, would your financing model work for them, or what would the conditions, like how big would it have to be? How would it compare to all their other options out there, like just going to a bank to get a loan? If you could just dive into something like that.
It depends.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure that out.
It works in class, right? No, it does. So whenever you have a project like Teslim or a church, they have a variety of options for funding, right? And by and large, they're going to look at what's the lowest cost for funding. And that might be a loan. It might be going to a bank and their bank says, yeah, we see your property. We know you. Here's a 2%, right? Kind of thing. And it works for them. A lot of times entities do go to the bond market for kind of two reasons. One is they can't get the bank loan for whatever reason for the size of the project for their bank. Could be in your example, it could be the bank says you've never done development before, so we're not going to fund you. I don't know. There could be a variety of factors. The other reason is a key thing here is we talk about municipal bonds. And a municipal bond, one of the things that's special about it is it's tax exempt on for investors. So if I purchase a municipal bond um, uh, from the church, if I'm the investor, when I get my payments back, I don't have to pay income taxes on that. And many times I don't have to pay state taxes as well. So you have this kind of like real return, right? So a lot of entities, the church, to go back to your example, might want to go to that market because they can access lower rates from a large pool of people, and they can get that tax exempt kind of bond status. That's what creates an incentive. There is more to it. There's a lot of like factors that go into that. But that's one reason they might go that path. So one reason would be because their bank just says no, like we won't do that for you under this type of project. Another reason might be we can raise money cheaper in this municipal bond market, and this is the reason why. You know what? Forget that it depends. Theoretically, if we pulling this off, it will do two things. Oh yeah, it could be cheaper going to the bond market than going to a bank. That was kind of the question. And the answer is yes. If we're able to get this new infrastructure in place, it will be incredibly cheaper and create a more competitive market, frankly. If banks even want to participate, they're going to have to drop their interest rates. Because all of a sudden, if you are a bond issuer, if you're an entity like Teslim's entity, you now have a much bigger market of competition that you can go to. And the bigger market, the municipal bond market, is going to be what we call like a direct placement, basically, which means those costs will drop significantly. Yeah, how long? When will this happen? The question is kind of like this will happen, or whether this. I'll try to rephrase it so everyone can understand. I'm just going to kind of answer it and build the question in. One of the comments that we pass along a lot within the project is all of the technology is here now. It's just putting it together. And once we put it together, once we have those processes, and there are technical and legal plus market making aspects to it, that's why it's not easy, right? Hard things are hard. But once we put those together, and it will happen, this entire marketplace opens up. The way the project is oriented, I'm going to be careful here. Okay, so everyone bear with me. We were funded by a grant from Stellar over a year ago. We've been working on this for over a year. And we've been putting together, as I mentioned, technical, legal, and issuance, the financial aspect. We are working with Teslim and Teslim's team, on this issuance. I can't talk too much about the details on that, but that's what is coming.
And Charles, do you want to talk a little bit about the Boston? Is it the Boston?
Quincy, Massachusetts. Quincy. I have to pronounce it right. They get very touchy about it. So what Teslim's referring to is there has been a one municipal bond issued on the blockchain before in this country. It was in Quincy. They get very specific about how they want to have their name pronounced. Quincy, Massachusetts. The difference there, I'll describe it, I'll tell you the difference. Very briefly, it was a $10 million bond issuance done by JP Morgan Chase. The difference between that project and our project is a keyword, public. We always say we're on a public blockchain. So in that project, JP Morgan Chase was the underwriter. So they were the private bank kind of behind the scenes. They issued it on their blockchain, which they control, and they purchased it. So they did the whole thing called vertical. They had the entire vertical. Actually, I'm going this way, but actually we go like this. They had the vertical. And then I think they had BlackRock, one of their clients. They made them buy some of it. The difference between us and them is that Stellar is open. Anyone can use it. So that means any bank could theoretically issue on Stellar. They work with Franklin Templeton, for example, in terms of like money markets, things like that, Wisdom Tree. And so from our model, you don't have to just use JP Morgan Chase's blockchain. You could actually theoretically take this to any blockchain that you wanted to. Obviously, Stellar would love it to be on Stellar, but you could take it from anywhere, number one. And number two, anyone can issue on it. And so those are the two big differences between the two options. Thank you. That's a good idea.
Hi, my name's Nikita. I run the Recovery DAO along with that very handsome man that's standing outside with the beautiful beard. And I would love if you would both give me a little bit of time afterwards because our ideas are so aligned with what you've already done and you're just 25 steps ahead of us. So I'm really, really inspired by what I heard today. I have to say that the democratization of beauty might be one of the most beautiful sentences I've heard in the last year. It's just, that's so wonderful to hear. And I apologize if this goes over a question that you've already answered. I have a couple of questions. One, I come from a speech therapy background. Push-in services were very pushed back on by a lot of parents. What has been your conversation with the communities in order for acceptance? The second is around ensuring a building of this type. And then the third is how clients apply to be part of this program.
Yeah, thank you for that comment about one of the key components of our project and how we talk about it. It's important for us to remember that even though we're in the nuts and bolts of housing and real estate development spreadsheets, it's beauty is a core component that we need to keep front and center. In terms of so I know insurance was one question. Another was I'll touch on insurance first. We've seen insurance rates increase by 50% year over year, and so it's something that we've had to build into our models. And we wish there was more negotiating power, maybe as a collective. There's lots of interest, I'd say, from local government entities, local government agencies, for there to be a consortium, an insurance consortium to help, with some of that purchasing power of operators. But we haven't seen much move. We just absorbed that cost. Your other question was? Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. In terms of services and adoption of services, we did engage in a significant amount of community engagement and focus groups with residents in this population. Also, as a community land trust, our board and advisory committee include individuals with lived experience. So they help inform some of our program design. I think that even staff members with lived experience. And so we've tried to participate in discussions with the population that we serve. There's a local group that was mentioned as one of our partners, Pool of Consumer Champions, but the consumer group is, informs our work regularly. The other question related to insurance, yes, it's more expensive to house individuals with serious mental illness and workers' comp, and everything is more expensive. It's seen as a significant risk, and we've just had to absorb that cost right now. Philanthropy is also interested, and they've identified this as an issue, and we know that it's on everyone's radar. There hasn't been much movement yet. So I would say that many of the affordable housing organizations out there are probably, absorbing the cost and not really in a position to do that. So it's a challenging time for housing developers and projects right now. But I think there might be some openings in the near future. Oh, how do people apply? So another thing people ask me when I tell them I'm executive director of a housing organization, it's our system of care is somewhat complicated, and the referrals come directly from Alameda County. And so there's not a typical housing application like you would for an apartment in the open market. But residents are connected based on having a serious mental illness and being a transition age youth in Alameda County.
I feel lucky. So this was super fascinating. Seeing those spaces was awe-inspiring. Does it all look like that, or?
It's all like that. It was just constructed in 2019, so pretty new building.
Holy moly. Okay. Well, my name is Nick, and I just wanted to hear a little bit about the population that you're supporting or helping. Could you talk to, hypothetically, like age group, why are they where they are in their lives, and then secondly, how are you actually, what kind of care are you providing? You hinted to a few things, but yeah, I'd just love to hear more about that, and what you hope to, where do you send them after this, in the ideal successful scenario?
Yeah, so the population are they're considered the term of art is transitional age youth. And so that population is the age range of 18 to 21. Sometimes it can be 18 to 24. But these are individuals who are aging out of the foster care system. And so if you familiar with, the foster care system, these are individuals who, have lost their parents or, have others that have stepped up and have provided support, but often a significant trauma in their lives, often connections to the system of incarceration, often challenges with educational attainment. And so support with GED or college access is front and center for us. Part of the location for us, it's near the West Oakland BART station, is that it's only one BART stop away from community college that's nearby. There is a community garden. I have my fingers crossed about buying this community garden in the neighborhood, in conversation with residents in the neighborhood, because it's been kind of falling apart, and it would be a great opportunity for us to kind of extend some of the biophilic design elements into the broader neighborhood and serve as job training opportunities. But broadly, again, just significant trauma. And so that trauma, I think it is really dependent on the ability to build interpersonal connection. And the way that we do that is by a strengths-based approach, kind of leaning into the interest of residents. Some of those modalities that we shared, art therapy, pet therapy, and an ability to engage in education and training at on-site and also off-site is a core component. I wish our Director of Programs and Social Impact was here as well to let you know about the array of non-normative approaches, because I think that our approach really, I would say that we're highly critical of the space that we're in. I think that we also are aware that many others are very critical of the space that we're in. And so I do try to temper that at times by saying that also the population is very difficult to serve, just given that significant trauma. But we have to do something different if we want to receive different outcomes. So that's our approach.
Charles, Teslim. Charles, you want to finish closing any insights? Or
I was going to
final
ask
words?
if I could. So I want to talk about how we can support that. So I want to connect. I want to use this to connect like what I was talking about, which can sound kind of far over here, far in the field, almost too financial, with empathetic leadership and vision on that's actually happening to help people over here. So, and it's going to connect three questions that were kind of three parts. You asked about intermediaries. I think you asked about scaling, and there's like the financial markets and dropping those costs, and how I'm going to connect that to what you just said. The challenge right now, I would say, is that Teslim and Teslim's work is reactive in the sense of from the financial aspect. I'm only talking about this little box. There's a million things he's doing and leading on. But in this little box, he has this vision. Anyone hear the community garden he wants to buy? Right? Okay, now he's got to go raise the money for that. It's reactive. If this tool, what we're trying to build right here, one of the reasons Teslim's been so fantastic and working with us on this has been, when we pull this off, it will happen. When we pull this off, we can start to create systems and tools that money is already sitting there in smart contracts. So then when the conditions are met, he gets to go. He doesn't have to come ask for money. That money's already sitting there. And we do that by removing some of the intermediaries. That's how it works. We do that because we can drop the cost, but the way we can do financial products that allows the money to actually sit there kind of almost like a bank account, if you will, until those conditions are met. And then that's what allows us to scale. Because all of a sudden, Teslim and all of the community land trust folks and all these people who are doing good, people in this room, know what they have to do to access the money. So instead of chasing the dollars and then losing the property, and then chasing the dollar and then losing the property, it's, I need that community, I need that land, I need that garden, here are my conditions, hit it, buy it, done. And that money stays and goes right into the community. So between the two of us, I'm way off on the theoretical blockchain finance side. But one of the things I love about working with Teslim and Teslim's team is it's a great reminder of why we're doing this, who this impacts, and good that we can do. Technology isn't value neutral, right? It's we define what we want, we build what we want, the incentives that we have. And that's why I'm doing this, and that's why I love supporting